Hello, this is Megan Marjoram, and I'm going to share with you today how I use learner profiles in my third grade classroom. My information is listed below, so please feel free to reach out if you have questions. I'm always looking for ways how to make these bigger and better, and so if you have ideas as well, I would love to hear from you. So what is a learner profile? It seems to be kind of a bigger topic in education right now, especially as we try and move more to embedding social emotional learning into our classrooms more and more every year. And so, what a learner profile does is just kind of creates that representation of our kids and who are they as this little learner and kind of as they grow, what are their new passions? What are some things that they want to share with educators? And so it's always changing, kind of always moving, and different ways, obviously, to display these. And so I will show you kind of how I started out. This year I started with just having a bigger board that displays all of them. And so my learners we kind of spent a class period just kind of talking about, strengths and passions and what are some ways that you like to learn. Do you like to learn in a group, or, as we personalize, do you want to work individually, or do you want to be with others, and how do you communicate that? Even as, 8, 9 year olds, they can really, if you allow them to have those discussions, it's so cool to hear what they have to say about themselves. And it's really cool to hear what they have to say. So throughout the year, I kind of started thinking about, how can I make these different, or how can we make these so others can, their families can share in on this as well. And so I started talking to the middle school and high school counselors, and we are actually micro-credentialing in this now. And so we're wanting to figure out ways of how we can make lessons around learner profiles, and how can we make them, we want to add them to our learning management system. So we have Empower, and how can we put something they could make their own Google site, and kind of making it digitally. But then obviously going back to, for younger kids, they might just make a poster. But I started to make one with my daughter, and she's a first grader, and she would even tell me, they maybe need a little bit of help as they go along with, how do you add these images? But this is just a Google slide. And so Aubrey and I sat down, and, we kind of talked about what are some of her passions, what would be some words to describe you. And so obviously, if your kids are really tech savvy and ready for this, they could do it digitally, which I believe for next year, I would love my learners to still make a poster and kind of have them displayed, but then also have it digitally so parents can kind of share in on that information as well. Again, we just made another one, kind of talking about her, I want a dog. She talks about, like, who does she live with? Who is your family? And, believe it or not, they love, obviously, little ones, they love to share this information. But then we talked about their passions and how she learns and what are some of her strengths. What are your dreams in life? And, obviously it'll be fun to see as they get older and as they progress to the next levels, what did you want to be when you were little? And, kind of seeing how they grow in their education. So another thing that I do that you probably saw, I will go back to this. So we have these little badges. And so this is another thing that you could add next to it, or, have them displayed, or also, I'm thinking if there's a way for me to do it digitally again next year, that would be really awesome. Then they could kind of have their own Google Slides, and they could also just add that on to the board as well. And so when our learners show proficiency in something in our priority standards, they get these little badges. And so it's kind of like Girl Scout, Boy Scouts, where you're getting these badges on your vest, except they just get to put them on a ring. But they're so excited to get these badges. We have, badging days where we kind of shout out to our learners and talk about like, oh yes, this person, they showed their proficiency and we're moving on to our next standard, and they're really excited about it. You'll also see I have learner's mindset. And so I like to incorporate, because we all know that there are going to be those learners that, maybe they don't progress as fast through the priority standards. And so I still want to incorporate some of those portrait of a learner words like our accountability and adaptability. What does that mean? And communication, leadership. What does it mean to be a good leader? And then also the learner's mindset. And so we kind of do a lot with learner's mindset, but now I'd really like to dive in deeper with, adaptability and accountability, those big words for third graders. And even, incorporating that with our counselor and kind of talking more about that. So when they get up to high school, they're going to have examples of what that is. Here's a time where I was adaptable or I used some adaptability and I held myself accountable for this. Just really having those rich conversations starting at a younger age and allowing them the opportunities to make mistakes and fail, but fail forward. And what are we going to do, next time? So the badges are included. And then also my idea with my micro-credentialing right now, I would love to have little trading cards for each of our learners, whether it's just in our 3-4 cohort, or if I can eventually get some of the rest of the elementary school on board. So they'd be learner created. They're kind of just about them, very similar to their learner profile, except they have these little cards. And then just kind of talking about career exploration too. What do you think you want to be? And even, at a young age, some of them really know what they want to be and what they want to do in life. But if it changes, then that's kind of one of those things to talk about. Like, oh, remember back in second grade when you wanted to be this, and just kind of cool to see that change in them as well. And so I would love to make little trading cards, and they can obviously, they don't necessarily have to trade with their friends, but maybe, having a little ring of them, and teachers have these and can learn about their learners. And, how cool would it be to have this information before going into the school year and planning some of those lessons around those passions and, kind of grouping in according to how do they like to learn? Okay, this one really just wants to be alone, and, celebrating that too and saying, okay, that's great. You want to be independent. And the last thing I want to show you on here is, what is some of that evidence? So here at Northern Cass, we have our portrait of a learner. A lot of schools call it portrait of a graduate. But we thought, why can't it be a portrait of a learner? And we're starting down in the younger grades. Otherwise, it just seems like portrait of a graduate words are just for those graduating. And we know that's not the case. We really want to be having those discussions. And so I also thought, as I'm starting to get a little deeper into my micro-credentialing, how could we use digital technology and already starting to upload some of those ways that they're showing this. So when they would click on accountability, obviously, they would have some examples, whether it's a video they put together, or maybe it's just something that they created, like another pic collage, but just having those examples of how they used accountability. How did you use your learner's mindset? How were you a good leader? So they will attach their evidence. Obviously this is digital, but they would just attach either a document or a video to that. And then it stays with them. It is, one of these things that with learner profiles, it's going to grow and it's going to, when they get into middle school, they know how to use maybe some more technologies and uploading that to our learning management system. So it's just a really creative, cool way to just highlight and put our learners in the spotlight and who they are as a little person and how they grow. So please feel free to reach out. I would love to answer any questions. And as always, I love ideas from you. Thank you.